Flashback. Yeah, it's all going to take our time. Flashback. Sergey just talked about it. Remember Carbonac. Let's give you a quick reminder. Let's give you a quick reminder with sounds, please. Thank you. Last year, we wanted to team up with Kaspersky, with light, please. We wanted to team up with Kaspersky. We wanted a simple case so we could work together and figure out how the law works. And they gave us Carbonac, a crime group that was raking in more money than a stripper on a Friday night. Not that I would know. We learned a lot from our cooperation. We learned about the law, we learned about the press, maybe. And we also learned we don't always understand each other. Example. They gave us the IP address of a command and control server in the Netherlands on Friday afternoon. Now, we like to think that we work hard, but don't call us on a Friday afternoon.
We're closed.
That was Carbonac. This story starts last year in Sweden.
It was a cold and dark night when our hero, a guy from Sweden with a typical Swedish name called Björn. Björn. Hello, Björn. Anyway, called Björn, got home from work after working at the IKEA. And when he got home from work, he decided to do some additional work, and suddenly he saw this.
So all of a sudden, this weird screen popped up, stating that all of Bjorn's file had been encrypted by an uncrackable key. And what's more, Bjorn had to pay $200 in Bitcoin to decrypt his files. And meanwhile, the timer on the screen ticked on. Bjorn only had 3 days to pay up, or the ransom amount would double. And Bjorn also noted there was an email address on the screen, in case he had any questions.
Now, back to Björn. Björn was a true detective. He didn't accept that he got infected with ransomware. So what he did, he tried to start up Process Explorer, and it didn't work. So at this point, our Björn got a little bit nervous. And as a last resort, he went to the minions and asked for help. Right, renaming Process Explorer to banana.exe solved the problem, and suddenly he saw the malicious process that was running. He quickly suspended it, looked up the command and control server, and found out that it was in the Netherlands. Now Björn didn't stop here, he continued, and he quickly saw that the command and control server was most likely a hacked server. So Björn contacted the owner, and he demanded the whole database. Now the owner, as a good citizen, said, no, you're not getting the whole database. The only thing I'm going to give you are your keys. Well, Björn was happy, but the owner had a problem. What should he do now?
I'd like to call the police now.
Fine.
Smart thinking. He called the police. Now, what would you do if somebody calls you and say, hey, I've got a command and control server full code, want to have it? Ah, yes, we wanted to have it. And we analyzed it. But the question is, what's next? What to do with the information? Now, usually what police does is attribution. We try to get the guys behind the bars. But that is expensive. And it takes time, and it doesn't always work. So we've changed our approach to a 4-step approach. First, the Band-Aid. Second, victim notification. Ma'am, you're hacked. Deal with it. Third, see if we can break the business model of the criminals. Mr. Criminal, you ain't making money no more. And now there are people who say, okay, if you do those three things, you will never get to attribution because you've just warned the criminals. Not in our experience. This time we thought it would be cool to warn and help the victims. But how do you do that? How do you warn the victims? What we needed was a private dick. Somebody who could build a website where the victims could clean themselves. So we called Jornt.
So after we received the phone call, we immediately realized that this was a unique opportunity to help lots of people all over the world. So we quickly started working, and we made this website. And after the website was ready, we decided to have a call with the police when to go live. Now, our idea was to go live 1 week later, so we had enough time to actually make a decryption tool, test everything properly, write the manuals, create a PR statement, etc., etc. So on that Friday, we had a phone call with the police.
Friday, April the 10th. So we got a call from our colleague in Groningen, stating that another colleague had been infected with Coinvault. Ah, a fresh infection. And it turned out she had already handed over her computer to the digital investigators to investigate. A very brave act if you consider that Coinvault is usually spreaded by illegally downloading movies. So with a little bit of support, our colleagues extracted the malware and we sent them to Kaspersky. And they were very quick with the results, because there was a URL coming out that was landing in Germany. Now, how do you check a server in Germany? Maybe an MLAT? Well, you just type in the URL in your browser first, and this turned out that the redirect actually pointed to 2 command and control servers, one of which was in the Netherlands. So, we got into our car. Within an hour, we had imaged the server, which resulted in a complete database of victims. And this database, what to do with it? By now, it's Friday in the afternoon. Should we wait for the weekend? Oh no, it's payback time.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, we were not really happy with it, because this is usually how my weekend begins.
Yep.
And this is usually how it ends because of making...
We did the beginning again.
Ah, now it's working. So yeah. Right, that's how it starts, and this is usually how it ends because of making illegal vodka at home. Actually, none of that happened because I spent the whole weekend doing this. Anyway, remember what we had to do. We had to make a decryption tool, we had to make a manual, we had to create a press release, we had to create a blog post, so there was lots and lots of stuff to do. And of course, I couldn't do everything alone, so I called up the big boss for help. Mr. Santi, who is somewhere here in this room, thank you very much for helping us out. He really, really played a good role. Well, anyway, after working hard the whole weekend, we had everything ready, and we could go live on Tuesday. Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Did you get the decryption ready?
Yeah, I forgot this. With the decryption, usually when you have to program and you have to work with encryption and decryption, it takes a lot of time to get the routine right at once. Luckily enough, the malware authors, they wrote their code in .NET, so it was really easy to decompile. So as you can see, this is their decryption routine, and this is ours. So simply by copying their code, we saved a lot of time.
Monday, April 13, and dark gray shadows go in Jornt's direction. Because this is Lodewijk van Zwieten, our public prosecutors. He's a good guy, but he likes to tweet. And on Monday, one day earlier, he tweeted the URL of the tool Kaspersky was still building. Bad Lodewijk.
So to give you an idea, this was the reaction at our headquarters when this happened. Well, we worked really hard, and everything was ready a few hours later. And at that moment, the first thank you notes started pouring in. For example, this is an old colleague of mine. He got infected with Coinvault, and he was able to get all his files back for free.
Remember the woman from Groningen? She sent us a nice pie.
Case closed? Well, not entirely. Because our colleague, Dima, he started tweeting like, oh, look at what we did, blah, 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 blah. And then some other guy on the internet, called Bart from Panda Security, he started to tweet like, hey guys, take a look at this forum, here are some fresh samples. I didn't feel like creating an account on that forum and logging in and downloading those samples, so I just asked for the MD5s, and he gave them to us. And then it turned out that there was a whole lot more to Coinvault than we initially thought. So we started to work on a blog post, we started to search for related samples, we started to create a timeline, and by the time the blog post was almost ready, I had a 140 megabyte zip file, and I just gave it to the police like, okay guys, here you are, have fun with it. And they asked, what is this? So good luck with that.
So we started analyzing the samples we got from Jornt as well. So now, how exactly did victims get infected by Coinvault? Well, we know that the authors of Coinvault spread their malware through Usenet. But in fact, at first, this wasn't a ransomware variant. It was a bot called Sonar. And this Sonar bot had a couple of activities once it started on a victim computer. It had a keylogger module. It hunted down any Bitcoin wallets it could find. It looked for FTP credentials. And, of course, any saved email account credentials, maybe to send spam with. After that, Sonar went for a little sleep. And at some point, it's suddenly woken up by the C2 server, presenting a little package with Coinvault. Well, the story is familiar from this point. Coinvault starts on a computer and starts decrypting everything. After which, of course, the heart-inflicting screen of death is shown. So now, we've seen it from the victim side, but now let's focus on the admin side, the C2 panel. In our case, we managed to secure one, and once we log into the panel, we see an overview containing all the bots. And it includes, of course, the reason of infection, and on the upper part, we see a couple of tabs in which you can see that you can manage the bots and view some stolen data that you might have obtained. So let's zoom in on the commands tab. We already seen that the admins set some functionality to create screenshots whenever a user was busy with Bitcoin-like activities. And on the left part of the screen, we see the option that you can upload an executable to all of your victims. So essentially, this is the point where all the Coinvault havoc started.
So let's start.
Peter, before you start, I just got a text message from Kostin. He was a little bit annoyed with something. So, Kostin, please.
Hello. Hey. Do you remember me?
Yes.
I'm the guy who complained last year that you come like for how long to SaaS? 3 years already?
Yes.
And you still, have all your funny movies, funny jokes. But come on, man, how about some technical information?
Technical slide. For you, my friend.
Am I right, everybody? Come on.
Yeah. Here's my technical slide, Kostin. It's got everything you want, including pi. Okay, let's continue with the story. If my clicker works. My clicker doesn't work anymore. Ah, there it is. So they wrote their code in .NET, which made it easy to records analyze. What you see here is a big byte array. We went through it like a rabbit on cocaine and scrolled and scrolled and scrolled until eventually, at the very bottom of the array, we could find, if my clicker works, we could find the key to decrypt that array. And with that key, we found Shield Runner. Shield Runner is a little tool they made themselves. It's pretty simple. Actually, what it does, now your clicker works and mine doesn't. Give me yours. Ha! Power. What Shield Runner does is this, basically, it checks for a few strings, and if it finds the right strings, it says, oh, I'm in a malware testing environment, and I don't start the malware, otherwise I do start the malware. Easy to circumvent. Remember, just use your banana. So once it unpacked the malware, we discovered a few interesting things. First of all, it's Dutch. Over there it says, give me your wheat. Dutch. The second thing we discovered is this. There were hard-coded URLs in there for redirects to CNC servers, and that's new information. That gives us new hints.
In the meantime, we also continued with our investigation, and one of the things I always do is look for the compile path in the binary. And this is what we saw. Sergei Novikov and Ryan. So it's true, actually those antivirus people do make their own malware. Now anyway, joking aside, what we actually found was one of the suspects' first name and the first and the last name of the other suspect.
Meanwhile, we were investigating the log files. And in the log files, what you saw, they were contacting the CSC server always through VPN, except for one time when they were using a home address. So we tried to figure out who lived at the home address. And click, click, and click, click. Yep. Who lived at the home address, and guess who it was. So, simple, right? Case solved, done.
No, not quite. Before we actually start bashing in any front doors, we really need to strengthen our case. And of course, primarily, that is, we want to make it as convincing as it can be for a judge. But also, when we would arrest the suspects, we wouldn't want to give them any escape routes to find their way out. Plus, having a big case is a big advantage during the interrogations. So you might wonder, what's this little hamburger doing here? Well, this little hamburger represents our case, which we need to buff up. So let's add some ingredients. First off, a little bit of police background checks, and then some open source research of the suspects. It's starting to grow. Then we add forensic copies of all the CNC servers we find, including all the log files, and we add some financial research to it. Of course, all of this wouldn't really make sense if we don't have the paperwork in order, and that means writing a lot. So we write and write and write some more until we get a full king-size burger. So now we're set.
And when we're set in the last minute, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll give them a visit. Now, usually we use SWAT teams, not because they have guns, but because we want them to have their computer open when we arrest them. This time we use the old-fashioned approach.
Someone might break in.
A few fake pictures of their homes. This is where they are. You see a lot of computers. You see hard drives that didn't work anymore. This is their workout room, the fitness room, where they had the server for their home network. And If anybody knows what this is, please tell me afterwards.
So after that, we started interrogating them, and they kept their mouths shut at first. But after we presented them with our case, they told us everything, including the key to the encrypted server in the workout room, containing all backed-up decryption keys of Coinvault, and some credentials to access the help desk email addresses they used, and for the CNC servers. So we started logging into the email addresses they used, and we found some drama stories, of course. Plus, what to do with the CNC servers? Well, we wanted to help as much victims as possible, so we secured all the decryption keys we find, and we set a little flag so that nobody ever had to pay up anything anymore. So, case closed?
Almost, because we have a few seconds left. Yeah, a few seconds left. They started with 20. Kaspersky went the next step and built a new version of the scanner. Excellent. Everybody happy? Okay, conclusion.
That's easy.
And it was easy. Why? 2 reasons. First, everybody involved took their responsibility. Second, people were able to find each other.
So how does this work?
It's working right now.
And not only were they able to find each other, they were able to share information. And that is basically the message. If we all simply do what we need to do, and we're able to bring our information to the right parties, solving cybercrime is easy. It might cost you your weekend, but you'll get friends for life.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.